Athena was the goddess of wisdom, war, and crafts. She was the favorite daughter of all the children of Zeus, as she was considered the wisest and bravest of all Olympus. One day, when consulting the oracle, the almighty Zeus received a disconcerting prophecy. The prophecy revealed that if Metis, the goddess of wisdom, gave birth to a son, he would be powerful enough to overthrow his father and usurp his throne. Tormented by the possibility of losing his dominion over the gods and mortals, Zeus devised a plan to prevent the prophecy from coming true. With skill and cunning, the father of the gods invited Metis to a feast in his palace. During the magnificent celebration, Zeus challenged his beloved to a game of transformations, in which both had to change form to impress the other. The goddess, unable to resist the temptation to display her immense dominance, accepted the challenge since one of her powerful gifts was a metamorphosis. Thus, after several transformations, the king of Olympus asked the goddess to adopt the form of a drop of water. Zeus mockingly told his lover that he would never succeed in doing so. But the cunning and ambition to show the god his power made Metis fall into the ungodly trap, and it was there when she became a simple drop of water that Zeus seized the opportunity and swallowed her with a single blow. Thus, the ruler of Olympus thought he had outwitted the prophecy and would never lose his hard-working throne like his ancestors. In time, the god began to feel an unbearable pain in his head, and every day, the pain intensified more and more, to such an extent that he could hardly bear it. On the verge of despair, enveloped in incessant suffering, Zeus decided to put an end to his evil, so he summoned Hephaestus, the god of fire and forging, to calm his delirium. "You must release me from this torment. Open my head and extract the cause of my suffering," said Zeus with an atrocious cry. The god, though worried about the consequences of the request, obeyed his father, and with a precise blow of his axe, split Zeus' head open. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the skull of the supreme god. The whole atmosphere was filled with divine light as an unknown being emerged from the body of the king. Little by little it would have stepped through the opening in the head of who would be his father. A being with shining armor and a powerful shield, was a majestic and strong warrior, stood before the assembly of stunned gods who watched the event with horror. The young goddess, already adult and fully armed, was Athena, the daughter of Zeus and Metis. Because when Zeus had devoured his lover, she had already become pregnant. So soon the king of Olympus gave life to his powerful daughter. Even Zeus, despite his initial pain, could not help but feel a mixture of pride and awe at the splendor of his daughter, who had been born from his head. "My daughter," said Zeus in a deep and powerful voice, "I welcome you to Olympus. You are the goddess of wisdom, strategy, and war, and you will rule beside me on this sacred mount." The young warrior with time became the favorite daughter of Zeus, for she had shown great wisdom, cunning, and strength that went above any other god. The young goddess knew that her father would support her in all her journeys and decisions, so she asked her father to respect and grant her to keep her chastity for eternity. Her father, proud of his beloved daughter's decision, gladly accepted it and granted her every wish. Athena had forged a unique friendship with a young warrior named Pallas. Pallas was the daughter of the sea god Triton and possessed exceptional martial skills that had earned her the respect and admiration of the goddess. Over the years, the young friends shared many adventures and learned together the art of strategy and combat. One day, as the sun burned in the sky and the waves of the sea crashed against the cliffs, Athena and Pallas decided to engage in friendly combat to test their great skills. Both warriors prepared themselves with armor and spears and stood in a clearing surrounded by trees and rocks. The two began to fight, their movements quick and precise like a synchronized dance. The spear of the goddess clashed with the sword of Pallas, creating sparks as they clashed with great skill. The gods and mortals watching from afar were amazed by the skill of both warriors. As Pallas raised her sword to block a blow, the divinity, blinded by a ray of sunlight, was unable to control the force of her spear. The weapon slipped between Pallas' hands and struck her directly in the chest. "Pallas!" exclaimed Athena, dropping her spear and rushing toward her wounded friend. "Forgive me! I didn't mean to do this." Pallas, struggling for breath, reached up to touch her friend's face. "Don't blame yourself. It was just an accident," she whispered before exhaling her last breath. Pain and guilt consumed the goddess. In despair, the goddess raised her voice to heaven, vowing to honor the memory of her fallen friend. From that day forward, the goddess adopted the name Pallas Athena, in memory of the brave warrior who had been her friend and companion. "I swear that I will bear your name, Pallas, and your memory will live in me for all eternity," she promised, as tears streamed down her divine face. And so, the goddess became Pallas Athena, the warrior goddess, protective and wise, always carrying with her the memory of the friendship and love she shared with her fallen companion. Over time, the goddess became a great woman full of cunning and great abilities, proving to completely master all the arts of gods and mortals. In a small village, there lived a beautiful young woman named Arachne. She was known throughout the region for her great skill in the art of weaving. Her tapestries were so beautiful and detailed that many claimed that the goddess Athena herself had instructed her. But the young woman, instead of being honored by such praise, took pride and belittled the gods, declaring that her talent surpassed that of any god, even the goddess of wisdom. Her foul words reached the ears of Athena, who, enraged by the girl's arrogance, decided to teach her a lesson. The goddess of war could not bear that a mortal had defied the gods in that way, since no one in the world could be superior to the divinities. So, full of anger, she took the form of an old woman and descended to the village where Arachne lived. In the workshop of the young weaver, the disguised goddess began to converse with her very delicately, and giving her advice, she addressed her. "They say that your weavings are the most beautiful in all of Greece," said the old woman with a gentle smile. "But remember, humility is a virtue that even the most talented must cultivate." The woman laughed scornfully and replied, "My skill is undeniable. If Athena wished to challenge me, I would defeat her in a weaving contest without hesitation, for I have proven that I am far better." Athena, unable to bear Arachne's boasting any longer, with a shout revealed her true identity to the mortal, and immediately accepted the challenge. The goddess and the young weaver began to weave tapestries, each more impressive than the last. The goddess of wisdom wove a scene showing the gods in all their splendor and majesty, a work of art worthy of hanging in Olympus itself. Meanwhile, the girl worked on a tapestry depicting scenes of the gods' weaknesses and faults, a fatal insult to their lives and actions. When both tapestries were finished, the divinity examined Arachne's work and could not help but recognize the skill of the young weaver. However, the goddess' anger grew as she saw how the mortal had used her talent to humiliate the immortals. So far from praising her for her weaving, she thought of her punishment. "Athena, I have shown that my skill surpasses even yours," said the mortal proudly, unaware of the danger that lurked. The goddess of wisdom, unable to contain her fury, raised her hand and with her mighty power transformed Arachne into a tiny spider. Thus, the young weaver would be condemned to weave her threads for eternity, reminding her of the importance of humility and respect for the gods. As the girl slipped into her new form, the goddess of wisdom said to her, "May your fate serve as an example to all those who dare to defy the gods and belittle their gifts. Humility is a virtue that should not be ignored, even by the most talented." Time later, in a flourishing city as yet unnamed, it aroused the interest of the gods. Both Athena, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, and Poseidon, the lord of the seas and earthquakes, aspired to become the patron protector of the promising metropolis. Thus, with the approval of Zeus, it was agreed that both would compete to win the favor of the citizens by offering them a gift symbolizing their intentions and divine powers. After a long dispute between both divinities, Athena and Poseidon accepted the agreement that Zeus had proposed, and that same day they decided to decide who would be the eternal patron of the city. Thus, they met on a hill overlooking the city, their imposing figures eclipsing the sun, attracting the attention of the crowd that had gathered to witness the monumental event. The air was charged with anticipation and awe. "Noble citizens, today, the goddess of knowledge and wit offers you a present that will bring prosperity and peace to your community," exclaimed the august Athena, her helmet sparkling and her eyes full of wisdom. With a delicate wave of her hand, the goddess brought forth an olive tree from the earth. Its silvery leaves glistened in the sun, and its branches swayed gently in the breeze. The tree symbolized the wisdom and peace that Athena promised to bestow on the city, and its generous fruit would ensure the prosperity of its inhabitants. Poseidon, with his mighty trident, then stepped forward, smiling proudly. He raised his mighty trident, slammed it into the ground with a colossal force, which even made the earth tremble, and immediately a fountain of water gushed forth. Poseidon's promise was clear: wealth and protection thanks to the dominion over the waters and seas, and he told them that the fountain would be eternal. The citizens, amazed and grateful, began to deliberate among themselves before making a decision. All the grateful citizens went to the gifts of the gods, but as soon as they drank from Poseidon's fountain, they realized that the water was salty, so the gift was practically useless. After a prolonged debate, the leader of the community stepped forward and in a loud voice told all the people that one by one they should give a vote to the gods to find out who would be the winner. Thus, after several hours, the verdict was finally known. "We thank you for your generous offerings, but we have decided to accept the gift of Athena. The people have voted for the goddess to be our patroness and protector. The olive tree, a symbol of wisdom, peace, and prosperity, is what we wish for our city." The goddess smiled, grateful for the wise choice of the citizens. Meanwhile, Poseidon, furious at having been rejected, disappeared in a column of sea foam, leaving behind him the salt water fountain as a reminder of his anger. He vowed never to forget the great humiliation because of the goddess, so he promised to take revenge on her when he had the slightest opportunity. From that day on, the city adopted the name Athens in honor of its divine protector, and the olive tree became a sacred and revered symbol for its inhabitants. Athena, pleased with her victory, protected and guided the Athenians, granting them great abilities to face their challenges. The years passed and Athens became a thriving metropolis, famous for its wisdom, its philosophers, and its exploits on the battlefield. The citizens never forgot the decision they had made that day, and always thanked the goddess for her infinite generosity and guidance. However, the rivalry between Athena and Poseidon did not disappear completely. Over the years, the god of the seas provoked storms and tidal waves to remind the Athenians of their rejection, but the city always rose again, stronger and more united than before, under the protection of its protector, the wise Athena. The goddess of strategy, very astute, knew how to guide the nation, and within the whole region, many women sought to become priestesses to serve the goddess. Thus, there was a beautiful woman who stood out among all the servants of the divinity. Medusa, a devoted follower of the goddess, admired and fervently desired to be like the great goddess. As she grew, her beauty blossomed, becoming a stunning woman who attracted everyone around her. Despite everything, she decided to pursue her dream and underwent rigorous training and purity tests. And in time, her devotion led her to become one of the temple's most respected priestesses, her beauty and ritual skills soon attracting crowds of devotees, dazzled by her presence. However, Medusa's success did not go unnoticed by the gods of Olympus. They all admired her for her slender figure, her tender and beautiful face, and for her great skills as a devotee. Poseidon saw the perfect opportunity to take revenge on Athena, and extremely attracted to Medusa's beauty, he devised a plan to disgrace her and destroy the divine protector's reputation in the process. One day, as Medusa was walking along the beach, Poseidon emerged from the waves, attempting to seduce her. Despite God's best efforts, the young woman remained true to her vows and refused to give in to his desires, fleeing in terror. Enraged, the Lord of the Seas pursued her to the temple and there forced himself on her, desecrating the sacred place and leaving the girl broken. When Athena discovered what had happened, she roundly blamed Medusa for what had happened and transformed her into a terrifying monster with snakes instead of hair, thus vanishing the beauty of the young woman. The woman, desperate and grief-stricken, fled the city, doomed to turn to stone anyone who dared to look her in the eye. Plunged into loneliness and despair, Medusa found refuge in a dark and isolated cavern. Heartbroken and her life shattered, she resigned herself to live in the shadows, far from those she might harm with her deadly gaze. The snakes in her head hissed and writhed, constantly reminding her of her curse and her fate as a monster. Meanwhile, news of Medusa's terrible transformation spread quickly among the inhabitants of the region. The brave warriors who heard the story were captivated by the idea of confronting the terrifying Gorgon and ridding the world of her evil presence. One after another, they went into the darkness of the cavern, armed with swords and shields, but none returned alive. Their petrified bodies became sad monuments bearing witness to Medusa's destructive power. One day, a young hero named Perseus arrived at Athena's temple, seeking her blessing before embarking on a dangerous mission. He was to confront Medusa and bring her head as proof of his bravery. The goddess provided the hero with a polished shield, like a mirror, which would allow him to look at the reflection without turning to stone, and a sword capable of cutting the Gorgon's neck. With these magical weapons and the guidance of the divine protector, Perseus entered the cavern, determined to face his destiny. Following the trail of thousands of petrified statues, the man reached Medusa's hiding place. With his heart racing, he lifted the shield and observed the Gorgon's reflection on its surface. The snakes in her head were flailing furiously, but the monstrous woman slept soundly, oblivious to the hero's presence. Seizing the moment, Perseus raised his sword and, with a single, accurate stroke, severed the Gorgon's head. From her neck gushed a torrent of blood, and in that instant, Medusa's curse was broken. Her spirit, freed from the prison of her monstrous body, ascended to the heavens. The hero returned victorious from his journey and handed the monster's head to the goddess, who carried on her shield the head of Medusa, a reminder of the unfortunate woman who had been a victim of divine wrath and the machinations of Poseidon. On the other hand, Hephaestus, the blacksmith god, had developed a deep admiration for Athena. Both shared a love of craftsmanship and creativity, and the god thought they were kindred spirits, for the warrior goddess always visited his forge in search of artifacts. However, the woman, being a virgin goddess, had no interest in becoming romantically involved with anyone, much less with the ugliest god on Olympus. One day, Hephaestus, blinded by his love and desires, decided to try to seduce the goddess. He followed her to her abode on Olympus, hoping that he could win her heart. The divinity, without hesitation, rebuffed his advances, and in the ensuing struggle, the god spilled his seed on the goddess' leg. Enraged and disgusted, the divinity quickly wiped himself clean, throwing the seed to the earth. Mother Earth, Gaia, became impregnated by Hephaestus' semen, and eventually gave birth to a child named Erichthonius. Erichthonius was born with an unusual appearance. Although his torso and head were human, his legs were snakes instead of human limbs. Despite this, the divine protectress, upon learning of the little boy's existence, felt deep sympathy for the child and decided to adopt him as her protege. With the care and guidance of the goddess, the boy was taken to Athens, where the goddess hid him in a sacred basket inside her temple on the Acropolis. Athena chose 3 daughters of the Athenian king Cecrope, Aglaurus, Pandrosus, and Hers, to care for the boy. She gave them strict instructions not to open the basket under any circumstances. However, human curiosity is hard to control, and Aglaurus and Hers could not resist taking a peek inside the basket. Upon seeing the monstrous form of Erichthonius, they were so horrified that they went mad and threw themselves from the top of the Acropolis. Despite the tragedy, Athena continued to protect and guide Erichthonius, ensuring that he grew up to become a wise and just leader for Athens. In time, the snake-bodied boy became a revered and adored king by his people, thanks to the help and guidance of the protective goddess. The Trojan War, an epic conflict that lasted 10 long years, devastated both Greeks and Trojans alike. Amid this chaos and bloodshed, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, just war, and craftsmanship watched from on high and provided support for the Greek heroes. Her heart went out to them, especially to Achilles and Odysseus, 2 of the bravest and most cunning warriors on the Greek side. When the battle seemed to be leaning in favor of the Trojans, the goddess decided to intervene. She descended from Olympus and appeared before Achilles, the fleet-footed warrior, and Odysseus, the cunning hero of Ithaca. The goddess of wisdom, with her golden helmet and shining aegis, radiated power and wisdom. Achilles, eager to redeem himself and honor his late friend Patroclus, led the Greek warriors into battle. His combat skills were unmatched, and with the guidance of the goddess of war, he struck down many Trojans. Odysseus, on the other hand, demonstrated his cunning and leadership by overseeing the construction of the wooden horse and ensuring that the bravest Greek warriors were hidden inside it. After the fall of Troy, the divine protectress continued to guide Achilles and Odysseus on their respective paths. For Achilles, his final destiny awaited him on the battlefield, where he would meet a glorious death and be remembered as the greatest of Greek warriors. Odysseus, however, would face a long and tortuous journey home to Ithaca, where his wife Penelope and son Telemachus awaited him. During this difficult journey, Athena stayed by his side, protecting him and guiding him every step of the way. Throughout the Trojan War and in the years to come, Athena demonstrated her commitment and loyalty to those who honored and respected her. The goddess of wisdom and just war, ever attentive to the suffering of mortals, she protected and guided her heroes in their darkest moments, ensuring that her legacy would endure through the ages.